I guarantee you not one of you can survive the longest possible walk in the world. The distance of this walk is so treacherous that you'll get a muscle cramp just from watching this video. This walk has it all, from scorching heat to freezing low temperatures. Stay tuned to find out what the longest walkable route in the world looks like. Remember to like this video and subscribe to Atlas Chronicles for more content like this one. The walk stretches from Cape Town, South Africa, all the way to Magadan, Russia. The distance is about 22,400 kilometers or 14,000 miles, cutting through around 17 countries and 2 continents. If you could walk non-stop, 24/7, it would take between 187 and 233 days to complete. But obviously, this is not possible unless you're a superhuman. So the more accurate time to walk this distance is between 562 and 750 days if you walked 8 hours a day. Due to visa restrictions, it would be nearly impossible to complete this walk. But let's assume that we didn't need visas to travel. It would still be extremely difficult due to the danger from wildlife, war zones, and a lack of infrastructure. The chances of walking from South Africa to Russia are slim, but not impossible. But what does this walk look like? The walk begins in the urban beauty of Cape Town. It starts off simple, strolling through busy streets, coastal roads, and suburbs, but it gradually thins out as you head inland. Leaving the coast, you trek through drier and less industrialized areas, eventually finding the Karoo. Days are hot, nights drop cold with scarce towns to resupply. The further north you travel, the harsher the land gets. Fewer farms and more wilderness. You'd pass small mining towns, eventually reaching the red dunes of the Kalahari Desert. And finally, you've done it. You have walked across your first country, but you're nowhere near done with this treacherous walk. While still in the Kalahari, you've reached the border of Botswana. There are still endless flat horizons and red sun dunes stretching for miles until eventually reaching the capital Gaborone. Finally, in a developed city and relatively safe from wildlife. As Gaborone is one of the safest capitals in Africa, you can relax more. Moving further north into Botswana, the harsh desert suddenly transforms into one of the most stunning wetlands on Earth, the Okavango Delta. The weather is cooler, however. This region's constantly experiences floods and is filled with predators, so you'll likely need to walk around its edge. If you survive this, you will have reached Chobe National Park, famous for its elephant herds and the Zambezi River. To enter Zambia, you will have to cross this mighty river. There will be nothing but rolling grasslands and small farming villages and wildlife until you get to the capital Lusaka. As you head more north of the capital, it starts getting cooler and you notice more woodland forests and rivers. It might even start to rain depending on what time of the year it is. This would be unfortunate as the roads will turn into mud, slowing down your walk. As you approach the border with Tanzania, the land becomes mountainous and greener, with the great freshwater lake Tanganyika in your peripheral vision. You enter Tanzania, stepping into the country's southern highlands. You proceed northwest, cutting through banana groves, fishing villages, and busy towns. Eventually, you get to Lake Victoria. But be careful. This lake is a malaria hotspot with mosquitoes everywhere. However, this lake is so beautiful and vast, it looks more like an ocean rather than a lake. By ferry, you travel across the lake, entering straight to the Ugandan capital, Kampala. So far in this journey, the only danger would be from wildlife and diseases. However, soon you'll encounter some active conflicts. The journey continues north, going through Kampala. Once you leave the city, the roads begin to become more chaotic. The countryside is lush with many villages. However, this region does experience heavy rainfall, which may slow down your journey due to flooding. The landscape gets drier and flatter once you're near the South Sudanese border. You must be vigilant here, as this region has historically faced conflict and instability, making it one of the dangerous parts of the walk. Eventually, you've crossed into South Sudan, following the Upper Nile. You proceed northwards through the tropical savanna of South Sudan, with the White Nile cutting through it. It is important to note that although a beautiful country, South Sudan is plagued by conflict and instability. You finally enter the hot, chaotic, and dusty capital Juba. You keep on going north, following the White Nile. The more you walk, the drier the land gets. As you cross into Sudan, the land shifts from green savanna to semi-arid scrubland. You keep going northward until you've reached the capital Khartoum, where the White and the Blue Nile meet. At this point, you essentially just follow the Nile through villages, ancient ruins, and long stretches of sand. The heat becomes more extreme, and sandstorms become more frequent. There could be some days when you'll walk through nothing but desert. You then cross the Egyptian border, walking near the southern shore of Lake Nasser. You follow the Nile northwards. Luckily for you, the Nile Valley provides a green strip of farmland, making the terrain and climate more bearable. You pass through many ancient temples and ancient ruins, eventually reaching the capital Cairo, walking past the iconic pyramids of Giza and the Sphinx. From Cairo, you angle your journey more northeast towards the Sinai Peninsula. You are finally at the border between Africa and Asia, and also about halfway through your journey to Magadan. You cross the Suez Canal into the Middle East. When entering Palestine, you'll notice that the once dry sandy desert shifts to more fertile fields. It is slightly cooler, however. It is still extremely hot. This could potentially be the most dangerous part of your journey if we're not including the wildlife and the diseases previously. You are entering an active war zone, especially in the Gaza Strip. Here you could even witness airstrikes. You'll eventually reach the West Bank in Palestine, where it is safer compared to the Gaza Strip. However, the West Bank still requires extra caution as tensions are still high. You then enter Jordan via the Dead Sea area into the Jordan Valley. It is hot and arid here. It's slightly greener, however, the summer heat in the Jordan Valley can be excruciating. You'll pass through Roman ruins scattered across the country. There are still long stretches of desert between towns. Once you've passed all that, you'll now be entering Syria. There are fertile plains and orchards in the south of the country. In some parts of the country, there are conflicts and instability which would be part of this route, so you have to be careful. Eventually, you'll be in Damascus, the ancient capital of Syria and one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities. The surrounding areas of this city do experience airstrikes just like Palestine. Infrastructure is damaged in many regions, so it will be hard to navigate. But you still manage to cross into Turkey, where it is safer. You see the fertile Mediterranean lands. Most of Turkey's major cities are more west of the country, so you won't be seeing that many cities. You will encounter some ancient trade routes once walked by caravans. As you head more northeast, you'll run into a lot more rugged mountains which are steep. If you are going during winter, then good luck, because this region can experience snow and low temperatures. As you approach the Georgian border, you'll notice a change of scenery. You'll see more vineyards and forested hills. But you're still not safe from the steep mountains, as there are even more in the distance. You'll likely enter Georgia along the coast of the vast Black Sea. Heading inland, you cross the Colchis lowlands, a fertile plain where ancient Greek myths placed the Golden Fleece. The land continues to rise the more north you go, eventually reaching the Caucasus Mountains. Here you need to be careful, especially if it's winter, as the roads can become icy with occasional blizzards occurring. Soon you'll be in the Russian part of the Caucasus, and also the last country of this walk. Brace yourself, because the mountain passes in this region are even steeper than in Georgia. However, you'll pass through scenic villages of stone towers and mosques. It is important to note that there are a lot of political instability in this region, and there are risk of avalanches. As you head up northeast, the land flattens with open grasslands stretching to the horizon. You can relax a little bit here, but be aware as the summers can be scorching and the winters can be extremely cold. The land gets flatter the more north you travel. Soon you'll arrive at Volgograd, a city steeped in World War II history, surrounded by vast flat grasslands. Compared to the previous stops at this journey, this area is definitely one of the easiest. You keep heading a bit more northeast in isolation, few settlements and a lot of fields. Soon you'll arrive at the Ural Mountains, the start of the brutal end of your journey. You notice that the land gets steeper. You'll be walking up low mountains and thick pine forests. The temperature starts to drop as you enter into Siberia. You walk through small mining towns in marshy terrain. The more you head into Siberia, the lower the temperature is. During winter, this area can be as cold as -40°C. There seems to be endless pine forest and swamps, until you enter Novosibirsk, the largest city in Siberia. Once you've left this beautiful scenic city, you'll be isolated for a while. If you're unlucky, you won't be alone, as bears, wolves, and moose are prevalent in this region. Things only get worse as you head eastward. The mountains begin to get steeper. Soon you'll have to cross Lake Baikal, the world's deepest freshwater lake. Eventually you'll arrive at Yakutsk, the coldest city on Earth, where temperatures regularly hit -45°C. Apart from Yakutsk, the only civilization are a couple remote towns that are hundreds of kilometers apart. Now it's time for the last stretch of the journey. You've endured so much misery and pain in this journey. Now it's time for the final hurdle. It's time to go straight to Magadan through the infamous Kolyma Highway, also known as the Road of Bones. But why does it have this nickname? Well, this highway was built by Gulag prisoners under Joseph Stalin. Thousands died here and their remains are buried beneath the road. This part of the journey is probably the coldest part, with temperatures potentially dropping to -50 degrees Celsius. This is also one of the most isolated roads on Earth, with services almost non-existent. Wolves and bears are still lingering. But this doesn't stop you. You still walk through this road. The walk seems endless, but the finish line is on the horizon. You walk for almost 2,000 kilometers on this secluded highway, long stretches with no shelter, shops, or even fuel stations. Days of walking through nothing but endless forests, abandoned gulag sites, and crumbling bridges. This is arguably the hardest part of the whole walk from Cape Town to Magadan, with almost 3 months of walking. But finally, you see the Pacific Ocean with a port town in front of it. You've at last reached your final stop, Magadan, a bleak, remote city on the Russian Pacific coast. The journey ends in one of the most inhospitable places humans have ever lived, but at least you've completed a route which no one in history has completed. And that was the longest possible walk on Earth. Do you think you could be the first one to complete this walk? Because of all of the dangers and visa restrictions in this journey, this route is almost completely hypothetical, as it is almost inevitable that humans will perish if they took on this challenge. Comment down what you think. Is this walk really possible? Don't forget to like and subscribe to Atlas Chronicles for more videos like this.